Awesome. So, welcome to the second hangout of Code with Mike. Yesterday, we had a good recap session where we talked about variables and the different data types that we cover in class. Today, I will be going through a recap of constants and what do they do and stuff like that. So, once again, the goal of these um, 30-minute hangouts is just to give you a recap of the information that we covered in class. Oh snap! I don't know what that was. Okay, so picking up where we left off, we talked about variables. Now, when we talk about constants, do you remember what we define or how we define constants? Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes. A constant, unlike variables, is data that doesn't change.
Exactly. So you remember yesterday how we talked about variables and we define slash declare a variable. Um, we change the contents of that variable, the value of that variable. But with
Yes.
constants, keep in mind that it's very similar to how variables are used. However, we can't change the values. Once we declare a constant, the next time we use that constant, we can't change it. If we attempt to change it, the program will call an error and it will say something along the lines of, let me show you. So going back to the code that we wrote yesterday. So we have variable is good. I'm going to go ahead and change is good to a constant and then attempt to change the code here to false. Is that you with the static?
Yeah, probably. I, I'm outside again.
Yeah, yeah. Just kind of mute it until you're ready to ask questions.
Got you.
Okay. So as we can see with this constant, we cannot assign to value is good is a let constant. So it will fire an error such as that, warning you, hey, you created this as a constant and you're trying to change it now. That's no bueno. So stop. So what do you think is the difference between the actual syntax between a variable and a constant?
You mean what exactly?
So in order for us to declare a variable, we use var. In order for us to declare a constant, what will we use?
We use let.
Use let, exactly. So it follows the same syntax. However, instead of using var, we use let. So if we wanted to declare birth year, we will use let. And then the same thing that we did with a variable is we identify or we explicitly declare the type of data or the type of value that this constant is going to hold. And then we have the assignment operator, and then we have the integer, right? So this is my birth year. So there you have it. We just declared a constant. So when we talk about constants, what do you think is the purpose of having a constant is?
The purpose of having a constant is kind of almost like a tether. It's actually something that you can kind of work around.
Mhm.
Um, I guess that's the best way I can describe it. Where the after that information is constant.
Static. Hello? Hello? Yeah, so similar to what you said. So think about it as a fixed point, right? So one of the uses of constants is if you're converting values, or if you're um, you know, converting from time to seconds or Celsius to Fahrenheit. You can really use constants as a way to say, this is going to be our focal point, and then we're going to build around here. So essentially, with birth year, we know that our birth year is not going to change, but we know that the current year is going to change, right? So if we wanted to calculate our age, and we know that right now it's 2016. We know that the current year is going to change because in January is 2017, but I was born in 1991, so I mean, I can't change that. So this is a perfect example of why we would use um, birth year, or why we would declare a constant such as this. Because when we go to calculate age, we would do birth year minus current year. And then we'll let the program run. And then, oops, I did this wrong. It's actually current year minus birth year. And then we'll get my current age, right? So it's really nothing too different, or, you know, anything more difficult than creating a variable,
Okay.
just primarily how you use them.
Okay.
So do you have any questions regarding constants? Because
I
they
guess.
adhere to the same rules as variables as it relates to the data types, right? So
Okay.
declared a constant once you can't, first of all, you can't change the values, then you also can't change the type.
Okay. I guess my only questions would be, thinking about my own app ideas, but if you could just give, a few other examples of like when in an application, constants would be important.
Okay, so, and then the app, um, let's see. Mhm. It really depends on kind of the functionality a little bit, because with a lot of social networking apps, there's going to be a lot of flexibility. So that's why you would use variables other than constants. But let's say, let's say you have an algorithm and you're looping through a an array full of data, right? And you know that every time, this is a very bad idea. I mean, a very bad example. I'm having a hard time thinking about examples and applications where constants would be used.
Okay.
Let me keep thinking about it.
Okay.
So let's go to a different question.
Gotcha. Um, hmm. So you can pretty much have, and just like variables, constants can be the four data types: strings, integers, booleans, and doubles, right?
Exactly. So you can
Okay.
have a constant that's an integer. You can have a constant that's a string, right? So let's do an example here. Uh, mm, right, you have string, and then let's secondary. You can have a double. Let's move on. Let third 30. It's another boolean. Right. So here's an example. Right. So in an application, say you wanted to loop through a number of different scenarios, right? And you know that you want the output to always equal something. Like, so let's say you have even numbers, like, I mean, excuse me, you have a whole bunch of numbers, and you want every single no. Okay, another example. You're a teacher and you have a whole bunch of different grades, right? And what you
Mhm.
want to do is say, okay, every time I loop through these grades, if this particular grade equals, an already predetermined value in the form of a constant, right? So instead of creating the conditional here, if grades equals 100, then do something else. What you can do is say, you can have let focus point equals 100, and then bang. So instead of having to type 100 a bunch of different times, what you can do is you can create the constant, and then if you need to use um, this this number in different places of your application, you can literally just go to one spot and just change the value here rather than having to change it a whole bunch of different times. So say we
Okay.
grades is greater than 100 here.
What's the if stand for?
If it's a conditional, we'll cover that on Saturday's class.
Okay.
So say we have this condition up here, right? And then we have it again here. Do a whole bunch of stuff, right? Then we have it here. In an ideal world, if we wanted to make sure that this equals, excuse me, if this remains the same, if we wanted to change it here, we would have to go to line 49 and line 58 to change it. But if we literally just said, okay, let the focus point equals this number, we can just change it here. So all we have to do is refer to one place and change it if we need to. Does that make sense? Sounds good. Well, that's all for today. If anyone, he signed up, but it's all good. Hello?
Yes, I'm back. Pardon me.
It's all good, man. So, just kind of answering your question some more. Instead of having a 100 in multiple places, you can just refer to um the the constant that we declare with the value
Okay.
100.
Okay. Okay.
So it's similar to like variables in regards to placeholders being a placeholder, but this is just a placeholder that you're not going to change.
Gotcha.
So there's a bunch of different ways to use it. Personally, I like a little bit more flexibility, so I use variables more. But what we'll see when we start building in the user interface is that if you're retrieving data and it's only being used in one instance, instead of creating a variable, it will automatically switch to a constant. But that
Okay.
will be something that's done through the actual IDE.
Gotcha.
So yeah, do you have any other questions? Anything? If you want me to kind of reiterate what we did yesterday, or
Nope, nope. If that's pretty much constants, I think I have a good handle on the data, the four different data types, why variables are important, how they can be used, why constants are important, how they can be used, and then on Saturday, like you say, learning about conditionals. But other than that, yeah, that's pretty much good. I'm pretty much good, bro, on that.
so when we declare a variable, eh, when we look at the syntax of a variable and a constant, what is the primary difference between the two and how we declare them?
The let in the var.
Okay, which one is for which?
Var, of course, is for variable. Let is for constant.
Okay. Now, from a function perspective, what is the difference between a variable and a constant?
Variables are, I want to say, ephemeral placeholders that can be
Meaning,
changed.
okay.
Meaning that they can be changed, that and I guess later on in the code. So in a particular spot in the code, it can mean one thing, but then you can change it, and it have much more flexibility than constants, to where, after you declare a certain integer or something as true, or have a particular string, you can't switch it up after that, or it'll be errors in your code. And like you say, the importance of them would pretty much be situational, to where, if you're taking in some data, like you say, at one time. For example, if somebody gives you their name in the application, then you wouldn't make that a variable. You'll probably just make that a constant. So whenever they're maneuvering or using the application, their name, the same name, will continue to pop up. Hello?
Can you hear me?
Now I can, yes.
Yeah, so you understand how when we declare a variable, we can then access that variable by name?
Yes.
Can I do that with a constant after I declare it?
Yes, you can.
Exactly. So the biggest takeaway, variables and constants act the same, but
Okay.
from a syntax perspective, they're different. And then when we go to use them, they're different. Right? Variables can be interchanged, their values can be interchanged, and constants they can't.
Yeah, the syntax is different, and the
The function.
function. Thank you.
Yeah. But the way we use them are kind of the same, right? They're
Okay.
both placeholders, and they both represent a particular value.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Sounds great.
Awesome, man. So this is the end of the second hangout. If you guys have any questions, feel free to email me at codewithmike@gmail.com.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Evan.